What's going on, people? Welcome back to the POA podcast. As you can see, we're just here, we're live. I'm trying to make something to eat while at the same time talking to you all. What's going on, people? How's everyone doing now? What's everyone saying?
Well, listen, I rolled out of bed like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah?
I'm tired.
10 minutes ago.
But do you know what I was doing? I wasn't even doing anything mad. I was watching One Piece yesterday. Till late.
You were catching up on One Piece. What episode are you on?
I think like 970 or something like
970. that. Oh, that's calm. You're close. You're close.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Close. Okay.
What are you guys saying though?
It's a Saturday.
Has everyone got plans for Saturday? Because I don't know, this Saturday it's feeling a little bit quiet.
Nah, I'm not doing too much. I'm boring this Saturday. I'm trying to be boring for a couple of weeks. I'm saving up my money.
I think that's the motive. That's the motive.
Yeah. Probably watch the Euros or something, but other than that.
What is the you see this is why I'm under the rock. I don't keep up with these things. What is the Euros about? Is this like international? What is this about? What's going on?
Football. It's European countries, isn't it? It's the best international European country wins this tournament, basically, arguably. So it's good, but do you know what? I'll be honest, yeah. This Euros, yeah, people have simplified it, Henok, I reckon.
Really?
Yeah, in a sense that they keep saying France is going to win, yeah, but it's not as simple as I'm not saying France aren't going to win. I think they've got a very good chance of winning. That's not my point. You can argue they're favourites, but I think people are wiping out and rubbing out a lot of teams just very quickly without knowing or thinking about what the potential risks could be. So, for example, I watched Italy yesterday against Turkey, and I thought to myself, they were leaving a lot of space behind, but I know Mancini is very adaptable as a manager. So I could see an Italy kind of like dropping a couple yards against the France or something. Yeah. And because they've got a lot of players in there that might not be the fastest, but tactically are pretty astute, I could foresee that team sort of changing tactics and being adaptable and could cause a lot of people problems. I think somewhere like England might find it hard against Italy, though, to be honest, as well.
Who even won find it hard against any team?
Turkey won. I said Turkey, Italy won 3-0.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a good game though, in a sense where you got to see the strengths of Italy, and you got to see where they might be limited in some areas, but they're definitely a good team. And Verratti wasn't playing, so they can probably even get better because he's one of their better players. So it's going to be interesting to see where Italy, end up in overall in the tournament.
Who won last time? Last Euro.
Oh, that was Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal. But that was 5 years ago, man.
So this happens every 5 years?
No, every 4. It's because of COVID. In fact, this tournament's still called Euros 2020. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's actually hilarious. I was like, you lot aren't serious. So you're not even going to acknowledge the fact that this is in a different year. You're not even going to try and, bro, they branded it, everything. It was trippy because, like, I was on TV, innit? I'm looking for it, whatever. In my head, I'm like, I'm looking for Euro 2021, innit? Like, just going flicking through TV now. And it's saying 22. I'm back, bro. It was baffling. I was still confused. Even the whole program, they got Euro 2020 in the background. It's confusing.
Someone's taking a picture. They were like, I'm glad they were like, yeah, last year didn't count.
It didn't count. It really didn't.
It is what it is. Who do you think is going to win this year?
Oof.
Any strong teams?
I can't say who's going to win, but Henok, what are you saying?
I don't know. I'll have to watch all the matches first and see like who's doing well. But I would love England to win it. honestly speaking, but I don't know. We'll have to see, man. We'll have to see.
So Henok, aka Steve from Burnley, is on the call today. I'll be honest. I'm like Henok. Like, do you know what it is? If you've been brought up in England and you went to school in England, or not even school, but if you've been brought up in England in some form or shape, you do gravitate to the national team a little bit because they don't win. They haven't won a trophy since '66, right?
That's mad. Can you imagine? They're still talking about 1966.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's one of those things, especially when you're supporting a team that potentially, statistically, historically has not won much. It kind of brings you a little bit closer to them because you're supporting them with hope more than with a certainty that this is going to come round after 4 5. Like, let's say, for example, you support Brazil, right? Every World Cup. In a 30-year span, you're expecting you might win 1 or 2 or 3. Do you know what I mean? But with England, historically, it's just, yeah, you ain't getting that. You might get that every 50 years or something like that. It's a bit mythical. So, like, for me personally, I'd say England, it would be nice to see England win. That's a nice to see. But for my side, I still say France, and I would just give a quick shout out to, I'm going to slant with, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound wild. You see France's group, yeah? That could potentially, the 2 teams that come out of that group could potentially go into the finals. So I think it's going to be, they got Germany and they got Portugal in there.
Woo!
Alongside that as well. I can't remember what the 4th team is, but it's an interesting group. So my thing is that group is gonna have a big say in terms of who's gonna win. Like, you're gonna have to beat someone from that group if you're not in that group to win the Euros. That's how I see it overall. But if France can keep Kante fit through the whole thing, like, not just Kante, but if they can keep Kante and Mbappe and the spine of that team fit, it's going to take some doing to beat them. They've got a balance in that team that just makes sense. It's one of those things. It's like every so often a national team, like, you know, Spain a couple of years ago when they won everything and came back and won Euros one last time. I think that this is how I look at this France team right now, and I think they could win the next 2 tournaments potentially. If they can keep everyone. Back over to you, Steve.
Come on, England.
I think people are doing this like Euro thing. Well, I think in the UK anyways, it's more like a reason to get people together. Like, people are out in the pubs now. People are buying, and like, I don't know what it is, but there's this book with cards or something. People are buying it, and I don't think I don't know. Maybe, you know, England is not going to win, but people are more just excited that, oh, it's Euro 20. It's a chance for me to drink and, you know, get drunk and watch football and, you know, just vibes kind of thing. So that's just how I've been seeing it anyways on social media. That's why I was like, what is this Euros thing? Is this like what's it called? The Olympics or something? I'm confused. So yeah,
it might be bigger than the Olympics, you know. Like, I don't know, if you're a football fan anyway. Like, if you're a football fan, it's definitely bigger than the Olympics. Because this year, yeah, England and Scotland are in the same groups. So, you know, the pubs are going to be...
It's going to be mad.
Like, yeah, it's going to be good.
Oh, yeah. Go on.
I was going to say, like, you see that game there, yeah? England, Scotland, at tournament, that's a Mazzoline.
Yeah. I see people already have their flags out, like, around the block. I see a couple England flags.
See,
I might get mine out as well, you know.
Come on, England.
Steve is very ready today.
No, honestly, man, we might get a bank holiday out of this if they win. So, you know, keep your hopes up.
It's gonna feel like
in that case, come on, England.
We want a Logan Paul. Name number 5.
Oh, yeah. Bear hugging in that.
I was thinking I was thinking Mayweather was just gonna knock him out outside, but he actually stood his ground. I watched some of the things that was happening, and there was this bit that happened where, and everyone was saying in the internet, where Mayweather almost knocked him, stumbled, they made him stumble, and Logan was, denying it on his story. I was thinking, should you really deny it? You should just let it run. Let's just let it run. Let people say what they say. Even if whether it happened or not, it is what it is. But I don't know. What do you guys think of the fight?
Listen, I did not. Do you know, it was on a Sunday, so it was a bit mad for the UK viewers, so I didn't even watch it. And I saw the reaction on social media, and it wasn't what I thought it would be yet. So I didn't even watch the highlights as well. Like, I've seen clips here and there, and I was like, it was a dead fight, man. Dead fight. But you have to give them credit. They did what they did. They made their money. Floyd Mayweather even came out and said he robbed everyone. Silly. Like, if you paid, he basically said, if you paid to watch this, you're silly because I robbed you. And people are there.
Like, they played the thing on the internet for free. They put the whole fight on YouTube for free. When everybody paid for it. Can you understand? What is that?
It's mad. And apparently it did like over or close to, I don't know if it's over or close to 1 million pay-per-view buys. That's wild.
Because pay-per-views, what, 14, 15 pounds or whatever it was? So that's...
No, they charge them more than that in America. It was like maybe $50 or something like that.
Mad.
Like, I don't know, man. I don't understand.
He did tell you, though. He did say, like, with endorsements, pay-per-views, all this nonsense, them man, they said they're gonna looking at 100 and something M's, like, coming through the door with that. So I'm pretty sure they made a killing. Plus, there was people in that thing, in it, because there's actually attendance. This one had attendance and people were actually attending it. So I would say, like, it's going to be one of those things where when I'm looking at least, I'm like, this is, for them, it was a big win for both of them. You know what I mean? And ironically, they were even discussing it that Logan Paul made more money than some headline fighters, like big name fighters, you know what I mean? Now, not maybe the biggest fighters in terms of Mayweather used to make quite a bit, but like, I think they even compared it at one point, like Mayweather's first few fights versus what Logan Paul's made in this fight. It was ridiculous. So for me personally, I think Logan Paul's side, great business. Mayweather side, great business. And I think from a viewer side, I think there's a lot of backlash on it, but then it's like, at the same time, Mayweather's a defensive counterpuncher, right? And it's not like Logan Paul's in there with Manny Pacquiao, right? Or someone that's explosive puncher that knocks lots of different people out consistently throughout their whole career. Mayweather, maybe a younger Mayweather might have knocked him out, but an older Mayweather isn't going to knock him out. It was more going to be ground and pound, right? It's going to be, can he ground him out? Can he weaken him and then get that punch? But I think within the situation, Logan Paul impressed, like, to a certain degree, where he stood his ground and so forth. But he did get a couple of bangs to the face, though. Like, people are trying to make it sound like there was no punches that were effective. There was a few in there still.
Yeah. No, like, respect to him, man. He did his thing. Both of them did their thing anyway, but it's not something that I would invest my time in, like, paying to watch that type of fight, to be honest.
Especially if you're gonna get it for free after. And the thing is, I see why other boxers are hating on the Pauls, because they're making more money. Making more money than them. I was watching this documentary for Jake Paul, and he was saying he was getting a whole lot of hate because they think he's not an athlete. Because it's a YouTuber, that he can't get into the world of this and that. But it's like, it's because I'm making more money than them. They can't hack it. But
technically they are boxers because you need a license to box.
Yeah.
So they are athletes.
Anybody can become an athlete. Anybody can decide, I want to become a boxer and become. They just have the money to afford, boxing training. They can get the license. They have the fan base to, support them, and so they can do whatever they want. But other people hate on them for that fact. And I'm looking forward to the Jake Paul, and I think Jake Paul is doing MMA with someone else. Some black guy.
He's boxing an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
I don't wait. Why are these MMA fighters so terrible at boxing? I don't understand.
Because you have to remember these MMA fighters is mixed martial arts, so they don't necessarily box. So
They're
let's say, for
terrible.
example, but some of them you have to remember, some of them aren't like as in their whole training might be jiu-jitsu, for example, right? Or kickboxing, because some of them are specialists in kickboxing. So each of these guys will specialize in a specific martial arts, right? That's why it's MMA, right? So they might have a specialist. It might be submissions, or it might be like grappling, or whatever it's the specialty that they have. And not all of them have striking as their key component to their fighting style. So they might be able to strike, and might be able to hit very hard, but they have to hit very hard. Like a lot of MMA fights, if you see it, there's not many times where they stand and strike, if that makes sense. So it's not like, boxing is standing and striking, right? So it's move, strike, move, strike, or strike, move. Do you know what I mean? That combination is different from MMA, because MMA sometimes the guys are very like, kick this, and then maybe grapple, or whatever your style is or your patterns are. I think it's a very different. You have to remember, in MMA, you can use a lot of different other weapons. So punching someone in the face might not be even your go-to route. Like some of these guys are just always choking people out, like left, right, center. And if you see MMA knockout ratios, it's not always knockouts by punches either, because I've seen plenty of kicks and stuff. So my whole thing is, it's not necessarily easy to just say to an MMA fighter, go into a boxing ring. Because the other thing is, well, you have to remember, boxing kills you in one way, that you have to constantly defend yourself this way, and that's the only way you can really defend yourself. In MMA, you can kind of, because people can kick, whatever, you can lift your leg, there's lots of different ways to protect yourself that you can't quite do in boxing. And I think as well, that's one of the key things. You can protect your admin a bit in different ways and stuff like that. I think it's a different fighting altogether. I think it's very difficult to expect an MMA fighter to correspond directly into boxing unless they're heavy strikers. And then, there's some MMA fighters that are known for like their striking power and can like literally, like do you remember Kimbo Slice? Who ended up transitioning from like street fighting to MMA. Someone like that, maybe in boxing, I would give a chance. But even him, for example, might be a problem with the cardio side of boxing, because that's another thing with boxing is people underestimate the cardio. Like I had, so fortunately for me, growing up, I had some friends that used to do boxing training. Bro, the cardio in boxing, I'm not saying you don't need cardio for MMA, not at all. But what I'm saying is the cardio for boxing, in terms of you need the cardio, but you also need the strength to keep your hands up. If you ever notice in MMA, sometimes they don't have to use their hands to block. Yeah. So they can do various things to kind of, do you know what I mean? So you don't always have to have your hands. But in boxing, you can't keep dropping your arms. Someone's going to knock you. You got to keep those arms up, or you have to keep moving. So I'll just say, like, boxing stylistically demands different things, whereas MMA demands something slightly different. And the only concern I always have with MMA fighters is, are they able to constantly strike? Because a lot of these guys, they move from punching to grappling a lot in their MMA fights. So
And this is why these Paul brothers are smart, man. Like, especially Jake. Is it Jake, the young one?
Yeah.
Because he's fought ex-MMA fighters so far. Like, first he fought that guy. What was his name? Ben something. I don't know.
He had another fight before that, still.
The basketball.
Basketball player, yeah.
Yeah, okay. The basketball guy, then the Ben guy, who was like a pro wrestler or something like that. And he knocked him out. And now he's fighting this guy. I heard this guy wasn't like much of a striker, this and that, the third. So it'll be interesting. I would rather tune into that to see like what happens.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Because I don't know, if Jake Paul doesn't get knocked out, then everything has been rigged. I can't lie.
Okay, I'm gonna argue and say actually the inverse. So I would say, because Jake is a bit wilder with his punching, like, I've seen some of his highlights from his fights. I can't say I've watched a full fight. I just find him not wild as in like he has no control of his punches, but he's a little bit more off the hinges in terms of he does look for the knockout. Like, I don't think when I was watching Logan fight, even KSI and that, he was looking for I'm not saying he wasn't looking for the knockout, but just the vim and vigor they look for the knockout slightly different. I find Logan can be at times. Yeah, he's a bit more reserved. But I'm not sure. But I just find that Jake seems to have a bit of punching power as well. I think he does actually have punching power, and I think he can knock people out accordingly. So I think it's just interesting to see him fight. I don't want to say he's going to get knocked out because historically I don't think MMA fighters have transitioned very well into boxing. I'll be honest, I don't, unless they're heavy strikers and they like literally punching is part of their forte in the octagon. I don't fancy them. And even
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, and even have you ever deeped in MMA, they use their elbows a lot more, like, or forearms than their actual fist. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Tony that these fights might be rigged, man. I'm not even gonna lie, because they'll actually make more money if Jake wins.
Exactly. This Ben Askren, he got knocked out, right? He got knocked out.
Yeah. He didn't even look like he trained for the fight, you know. Like, I don't think they care. Like, they'll just turn up and just fight.
No, but you, like we said earlier, but you have to remember, MMA fighters are even worse paid than boxers for the most part in some places. So, like, unless you're a top MMA guy, bro, you ain't probably making that kind of piece. So, Logan Paul and that, they want to add validity to their thing. They grab an MMA fighter, they made no peace, say to him, oh, bro, you're going to get 20 M's or 10 M's. Bro, why not? Why? Because the reality is, like, even that guy that got knocked, the second guy, not the basketball player, but the MMA fighter, even though he got hit and he went down and got knocked out, quote unquote, he's fine. Because he's had fights. He's had fights probably with people that probably were doing more damage to him. Do you know what I mean? Like, so in this fight, these guys more 9 out of 10 times. I'm not saying they cannot get hurt. It's impossible for them to get hurt. But likelihood is they're not going to get hurt in these fights. Worst case scenario, they get knocked out, they come back, boom, 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 and hopefully they're all fine, God willing. But for the most part, I think the risk is a lot lower fighting a Logan Paul than it is to go back into the octagon for most of these guys, anyways.
100%.
So yeah, it's a win-win.
Sorry, bro, and they'll make more money fighting the Pauls.
This way I might get into boxing as well. Let me get famous first. Well, it is what it is. But listen, guys, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. What did we even talk about? We spoke about a whole lot of stuff, didn't we? Spoke about a whole lot of stuff. But with that being said, thank you for listening, guys. If you are new to Patreon, or if you come across our stuff on social media, make sure you follow us on Patreon, follow us on socials, follow us on all our platforms. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Peace, love, and guidance, and have a wonderful day.